All right, Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football, striking up the live stream on a Monday evening at 6 o'clock Eastern Time. We are talking Utah football out in the Pac-12 with Joseph Silver Swag of the Utah Rivals. First appearance here at Mark Rogers TV. Joseph, how you doing today?
I'm doing pretty good. How are you, Mark?
I'm doing just fine. I appreciate you jumping on board and getting us set on Utah, a team that I think is extremely intriguing considering the division, a number of coaching changes there, considering USC possibly down as well, and trying to figure out their quarterback situation, and most likely the young kid JT Daniels taking over. So let's start right there in regards to the Utah fan base. Has to be a bit excited about what could be possible here in 2018.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, we're a little fan base, a little snake bitten as a general rule. There's been a lot of hype the last few years, and the Utes have come close and never really quite made it. They've developed a reputation for a November collapse, as we call it around here, which I frankly think has more to do with the fact that they're playing in the Pac-12, and there's often times a lot of really good teams to play in November. But coming into the home stretch, they looked really good after dropping a few in a row early. And then just dropped the ball against Washington State, Washington, a couple other later games, and that's happened a lot. So there's a pessimism among the Ute fans in general, but it's pretty hard to contain the excitement with so many returning starters and a lot of talent and a lot of NFL prospects on the roster. So it's a good time to be a Ute fan.
Definitely. Joseph Silver Swag on the line with Utah Rivals. We're talking up the Utes, and of course, they play in the Pac-12 South. No offense here, Joseph. I think it's the worst division in college football right now.
I think that's probably fair. It's weak division, that's for sure. It's a shame that the Utes play the worst or the best teams in the North, because the North is a pretty strong division, and it'd be nice if the Utes were tilted against the likes of Oregon State and Cal, but instead it's all the tough guys up north.
Absolutely. So you're diving right into where I was going next. We're big on schedule analysis here, and you have about as tough a draw as you can get. I think it's Washington, Stanford, Oregon for you out of the Pac-12 North, and whoever else, Washington State. So I was making some comparisons and looking at Utah's opponents in the North Division. So you take out the two teams you miss. Those other three teams went 24-12 in the conference last year, and compare that to Arizona. Their three opponents went 12-24. They miss Washington and Stanford. That's just a decided disadvantage that I don't think necessarily needs to exist. I think the scheduling could be better, but it's making me hesitant to pull the trigger on Utah winning the South.
I think that's fair, and that's what's got a lot of national observers kind of trepidatious about the whole thing. I don't think that that's enough of a factor that it's going to keep the Utes out of it, just because the competition from the rest of the South, as you alluded to, is pretty soft. Arizona's got a great quarterback. USC's always USC and loaded with talent, but everybody is feeling out new coaches or new players, and there's a lot of turnover, a lot of change. And the exception to that is Utah, which has been extraordinarily consistent, both in terms of coaching staff and in terms of talent this season, returning quarterback, returning a running back, returning 4 out of 5 heavily experienced offensive linemen, a lot of receivers coming back, although not all of them. So with all of that consistency, I think this is really the right moment to strike. A little thing that I'm excited about is the NCAA allowed an extra coach to be added to every team. And I think Utah made one of the best hires in the whole country there. They went up north and got Gary Anderson, who quit from Oregon State, where he left Wisconsin and then Utah State, and he actually used to be defensive coordinator for Kyle Whittingham. So he's kind of coming home after Wisconsin. He was very successful. At Oregon State, he wasn't. But I think reflects maybe a desire for him to get back into the trenches, working with players on a one-on-one basis, really focusing on technique and approach, game plan, rather than on kind of the big picture executive administrative job that is being a big time football head coach. And so I think he's a slam dunk hire for the Utes and should improve. The core defensive weakness for me last year was the Utes third and short and other power run situation defense. The Utes have this reputation as being a really tough defensive team, particularly in the trenches, and they earn that reputation. But if you actually go into the numbers and look at their third and shorts, they have I want to say, one of the 10 worst conversion rates in the entire country on run games on third and 1 to 3. So they really struggled in that kind of just, buckle your chin strap and put your head down and stop the other guy situation last year. And that's Gary Anderson's specialty. So I'm hoping they can shore up that particular defensive weakness. And if they can fix that, I don't think the Utah's defense projects to have a weakness this year. The secondary is one of the best in the country. The linebackers are good. Defensive ends are always great. And right in the middle of the line, I think, is the opportunity for improvement there for the Utes.
So I was looking at the advanced metrics, Joseph, and 11 straight performances in the top 40 in the nation in the advanced metrics defense. It's always a sound group, as you say, usually very fortified along the front line. Lecky Fotu is your man in the middle there. I got a guy here, defensive end Bradley. Pardon me?
I love Lecky. I
get about Lecky.
He's the kind of player that every defensive coordinator dreams of. He's enormous. A lot of times with these guys in the middle, you've got somebody who's low 6 feet, 300 pounds, kind of a big heavier guy. Like he's 6'5". He's just colossal in a way that even most defensive tackles are not colossal, and totally unstoppable in the trenches. And every single time he came out on the field, he didn't start last year. He was behind two guys who were trying to make their way in the NFL, and actually both retired, not because they weren't having success on their teams, but maybe because their heart wasn't entirely in it. And I think that was reflected in those third and shorts I was talking about before. But when he would come on the field, the whole tenor of the defense would change, and that the aggression and the kind of violence of that defensive line starts with Lecky Fotu. In my view, he's not the best player on the defense. I think that honor probably goes to one of the guys a little farther back, either Chase Hansen or Julian Blackmon. But he's a really special player and a one-of-a-kind talent in a way that those other guys aren't, just because of his combination of athleticism and quickness and just huge frame and incredible strength that he brings to the field.
So concerns on defense are stopping short yardage plays, not a whole lot of depth and girth up front, and then maybe depth overall. The secondary should be really good, correct?
The secondary is loaded. Utah runs a lot of nickel. They mostly run a 4-2-5 defense, so there's usually 5 defensive backs on the field. But they've got the talent to back that up with Julian Blackmon on one side, Jalen Johnson on the other, and then Javelin Guidry down the middle as the nickel corner. And those three guys are three of the better cornerbacks in the Pac-12 for sure, and Blackmon in particular is projected as one of the better cornerbacks in the country this year. Where I would say another concern is, especially depth-wise, is linebacker. Chase Hansen projects to be an all Pac-12 caliber linebacker, and his partner in crime, remember, it's mostly a 4-2-5, so there's really 2 starting linebackers, is probably going to be Cody Barton, who's a solid Pac-12 player. But behind that, there's a lot of question marks. There's not a lot of depth, and there's a little bit of uncertainty about who would step up if that was necessary. Donovan Thompson's a name you'll hear a lot. Devin Lloyd is a true freshman. We've been hearing his name called a lot in practice and press conferences, so that's somebody we're watching. But that's kind of it. So if there start to be injuries that pile up at linebacker, we're hoping to see some transfers or something change so that Ute fans can feel confident there's enough depth at linebacker to fill up those gaps.
All right, MarkRogersTV, the voice of college football, breaking down the Utah Utes, courtesy Joseph Silver Swag. You can catch him on Utah's Rivals page. We are, of course, the voice of college football, bringing you the very best from the bloggers, broadcasters, and writers in the industry. They cover the teams on a regular basis, day to day. Please join us for our schedule rankings. We've got the Utes. Have we done the Utes already? About the 35th to 40th schedule in the country because of the strength of that Pac-12 schedule in conference. Team reports coming up this week from Oklahoma, Texas, Florida, Florida State, Clemson, Ohio State, Michigan, Alabama, all over the place. So please join us there. All right, let's move to the offense. You've got your top running back, you've got your quarterback back, and most of your top threats at wide receiver as well.
Yeah, I mean, when I was talking about consistency, there's that consistency on the offense as well. I would say the cornerstone, the name to know of the offense is going to be Zach Moss. He's the starting running back. He was good at the beginning of the year after having taken over a bunch of injuries in 2016, and then really figured it out about halfway through the season against USC. It started racking up some really impressive games, turned into a really violent runner, hard to bring down, running to contact, all the stuff that you want to see. And then he comes back a year later, and Coach Whittingham, who is not the kind of coach to compliment his players publicly, said he's nothing but bone, blood, and muscle. And he put on about 15 pounds. He lost everything he didn't need and put on some good weight. And he is just he's a very scary looking guy right now, and he's running like he doesn't intend to be brought down ever. And so we're really looking forward to what he can do. And as your viewers may know, there's a real tradition of highly successful running backs out of the U. Going back, John White, the fourth, had a couple of really good 1,500-yard seasons. Joe Williams had a great season. Devontae Booker, and Booker and Williams are both in the NFL right now trying to make their way. And so that history has gone on for a while, and Zach Moss looks to be kind of the next linchpin at running back. What's exciting now is that Utah's got a new offensive coordinator, second year in the system, started to see some flashes late of what looked like an actual functioning passing attack, which we haven't seen really since the Urban Meyer days, behind quarterback Tyler Huntley. And he's a special player, 4-star player, was a Gatorade Player of the Year in Florida. Thanks to Dennis Erickson for going into Florida that year and getting Zach Moss, Damari Simpkins, and Tyler Huntley, all three of whom now are the 3-star players for the Utes out of Florida. And he's a special kid. You'll see him build as kind of a running threat in the Khalil Tate mode, but when you start to break down the numbers, he's a good runner. He's quick. He's shifty. He can certainly get yards on the ground, but where he's at his best is when he's throwing. He's a very accurate passer. His best game last season was against Washington. If you want to see him at his best, that's the place to go. I think he got up to 10.9 yards per attempt against a really good Washington defense. So he can really play when he's on. When he's off, like against ASU, I think he had 5 interceptions, but that was his true freshman year. So we're hoping to see him have matured and grown up a little bit. One thing a lot of Ute fans are watching is, will Tyler Huntley be able to hand the ball off? He and Zach Moss matched carry for carry last year. They each got about 17 carries per game, a lot of read option. A lot of what's called the RPO, which is sort of a new wrinkle in offensive football, where the quarterback drops back and then has the option to keep it and run or to throw the ball. And Tyler Huntley ran it a lot and didn't always run it when he should have, and he wound up injured, missed 4 games. So a lot of observers are hoping to see Tyler Huntley bring those carries down from 17 to about 8, 9, 10, 11 carries a game. Let Zach Moss pick up the extra workload there, and that should make the offense really hum. And if they can do that, they're going to be tough to stop. I think there's a lot of talent on this team. It's certainly never going to be the premier part of Utah football. That's always going to be trenches. That's always going to be the defense. It's always going to be sacks and interceptions. But if the offense can take that next step and become a top tier in the Pac-12 level offense that can really compete with guys like the Oregon squad and the Washington squad, and play the same brand of efficient, impressive offensive football that you see from those teams, they're going to really challenge for the whole conference this year, I think.
Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football, striking up the live stream talking Utah football with Joseph Silverswag. He's from Utah Rivals page. And I'd like to remind everybody watching on Facebook, if you'd like to catch the traditional feed of the live stream, it's on YouTube at MarkRogersTV.com. But thanks so much for joining. And Joseph, it was mentioned here on the live chat, Britain Colby. It's also in my notes here. 2-year LDS mission, coming back after catching for over 500 yards a couple of seasons ago. So he's obviously welcome back as well.
Yes, he is. It's really nice to have Britton Covey back, and it's been fun to watch Troy Taylor realize what he has there. You got to look up a picture of this guy. He looks like a 34-year-old tax accountant. He's listed at 5'8", 155, I think, right now. But I've stood next to him enough times. I'm 5'8". Britton Covey's not 5'8". He's a little guy, but he is really, really quick. He runs amazing routes. He's really hard to bring down. And he was a freshman All-American before he went on his mission. And there's always a concern when a guy spends 2 years not playing football. The rules on a mission are pretty tight regarding free time, what you can eat, what you can do, what you can wear. So these guys often will come back kind of a little doughy, not really in shape. But he hired a trainer the second he came back, and he's been working his tail off to get back into football shape. And according to everybody watching him, hasn't lost a step, and has put on a couple of pounds of muscle. So he looks pretty good, and is a real terror for opposing defenses, and it was also great in the punt and kick return game, which has been a linchpin of Utah's getting the ball down the field for a long time, particularly as the offenses have not been as good. They've relied on special teams to flip the field and keep things in control that way. And Britton Covey's proven to be an exceptional punt returner with his mobility and space. If you're really interested in him, I'd advise going back to Utah's Michigan game in 2015. It was him, and they put, oh gosh, who was it? It was the Peppers kid. He's playing quarterback or safety now in the NFL.
Yep.
And they put him on him. And watching these two guys work on each other was really, really fun. And Britton beat him. I mean, he had him dead to rights a bunch of times, got a bunch of receptions, and that is a good player, and I think a real example of, despite his unassuming appearance, he's a genuine threat to any defense.
All right, everyone, don't sleep on the Utes. I know the traditional thinking is USC wins the South, Washington comes out of the North, and there's your Pac-12 championship game before anybody's hit the field. But the Utah Utes are extremely solid across the board. I'm not going to argue that the roster is more talented than USC, but I think the team's more ready. And what's going to possibly hold it back is what we talked to Joseph about right off the top, and that's the most difficult schedule in play in conference in the Pac-12. So I'll hit you with these two things, Joe. One being that is this the typical Utah attack that, despite having an all-conference performer at running back, a very reliable quarterback with a ton of experience, that you're going to be efficient and consistent to a certain extent on offense, but the lack of explosiveness may be an issue?
I think less so than in the past. It was less of an issue last year than it was in years prior, but it continues to be an issue both in the I think it's talent related to a certain extent, but I also think it's philosophy related. And we're watching constantly this contest between Kyle Whittingham, who is at his core this nuts and bolts lunch pail kind of guy that doesn't ever want to see it aired out. He wants to go 3, 4, 5 yards every single time. But that's not how offense works in college football anymore. And he doesn't have the horses to do that anyway. I mean, maybe you can run that offense at Wisconsin, or maybe you can run that offense with Michigan. But when you're a team like Utah that's going to have good players but not great players, you've got to do innovative things to get down the field. You've got to score sometimes when you're not supposed to if you're going to keep up. And watching the conflict between Whittingham's nature and Troy Taylor, he was out of Eastern Washington. He's kind of a hair on fire FCS offensive guru who's just doing whatever it takes to get points on the board. It has been really interesting. And I think if this partnership works, and if Troy Taylor has kind of the character to say, well, I'm just going to do my thing anyway, that's what's going to make this team the most successful. I think that Whittingham's personality, coupled with the fact that he's really a very dominant and intimidating kind of person, has made it really hard for offensive coordinators to feel like they could experiment. And we're hoping that Troy Taylor is tough enough to handle Whittingham, because in every other area, that Whittingham toughness is a cornerstone of what makes the Utes a really fun team and a really successful team. But when it comes to the offense, it's been a problem, and I think you've seen it in not just the lack of explosive plays, but the lack of calling plays where that can happen, where there's a guy downfield who can get open, and where they're taking the risks that are necessary to create those opportunities. We started to see that change, particularly as the season wore on, as the offense was installed. And in early practices, it looks like they're continuing to practice the plays that we're hoping to see. So I'm hopeful, but I don't want folks to think everything's going to change really fast. In my experience, things tend to be more or less the way they were last time you thought about it. And I think that's probably going to be the case, where explosiveness is going to continue to be an issue for the Utes. But because everything else is so strong, we don't need a wholesale improvement in that area for the Utes to be a really good team. Just a modest improvement in explosiveness, I think, would do the trick for them.
Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football. We bring on the best bloggers, broadcasters, and writers in the industry to talk up the game we love. And we are just about 3 weeks and a few days away from 2018 and that Thursday night kickoff, Purdue Northwestern highlighting. We're talking Utah football. First time to have Joseph Silverswag on from Utah Rivals. And Joseph, you've done a great job. I'm going to hit you with one other thing. We know you need to go here in a couple minutes. One other thing that's going to make the difference in Utah football is them getting back to winning those close games. So I saw a number here where Kyle Whittingham went through a run of going 32-12. Let that sink in, people. 32-12 in one possession games and 3-7 last year. So if that comes back to the norm, then look out.
Yeah, I mean, I think that Whittingham is consistently one of the most underrated coaches in the country in terms of X's and O's, in terms of getting people ready for a game. You don't have to look any farther than his bowl record, which is, I believe, 10-1 right now. He's a real spectacular coach when it comes to winning the game on the field with the tools that he has in front of him. And so I look for that to change, because I think that in the college game, that number reflects the disparity in coaching and reflects the ability to make the adjustment on the fly at the last minute that makes the difference. And Whittingham has historically been among the best at that in the nation. And I look for that to continue. I don't know as I'd predict. What did you say the number was? 32-12. That's
12.
Pretty stunning win percentage in those kind of games. But I think they'll at least revert to a 60-40 kind of range in those games and win more than they lose. And my hope is, and I think every Ute fan's hope is, that there'll be less of those games. That the Utes will be able to get big leads, hold on to them, and pull away, which has always been a struggle for them, and is really frustrating, especially in the rivalry game, which is Utah's big rival is BYU. And I want to say the win streak is great. The win streak's at 7 right now. And I want to say in 6 or all 7 of the last games, the Utes have had a 10 or a 14 or a 17 point advantage in the third quarter, and then gone on to let that slip away till at the very last second you were biting your nails and taking an extra drink or two. And it would be really nice to see the Utes find a way past that barrier and say, we're just going to be the best team on the field all 4 quarters and not take it easy on anybody.
Joseph, it's been great having you on, getting caught up with Utah football. We're 3 weeks away and a few days as well. I want to let everyone out there know where they can find you.
I am mostly on Twitter. It's Jay Silverswag on Twitter. You can also find me on the Utah Rivals site. That's Utah.rivals.com, I think. And I also do a podcast, the Ute Talk podcast with my buddy Grant. That's kind of my baby. That's my favorite thing to do. So I'd invite you to come listen to that. And that's it. Most of my stuff comes up on Twitter, and that's where I invite people to come talk to me. And if you got any questions, I'm on Twitter a lot and happy to answer anything you got for me.
Okay, Joseph, good stuff. You're welcome anytime. We try to keep everybody abreast of all the big teams across the Power Five in Utah. Certainly, the more I look at it, the more I'm just going to have to make an 11th hour call on Utah versus USC to win that Pac-12 South. But it should be mighty interesting, that's for sure.
Yeah, hopefully you'll be having me on here to talk about the, I don't know, Saturday. I can't remember what week it is, but the 7-0 Utes versus the 6-1 Trojans for the title. That'll be fun, but I don't know if we'll get there. We'll have to let the games be played.
All right, Joseph, you take care.
You too, Mark. Bye-bye.
Thank you so much for jumping on. All right, that was Joseph Silverswag. Again, Utah Rivals page. Join him right there. Of course, Rivals, one of the very best in the industry. In covering college football, one of the industry standards. Of course, you're watching Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football. And if you're watching on Facebook, of course, every so often I'll just strike up the live version there on Facebook. That's not the traditional form to watch my videos, so it's not the best picture here. And this is something we need to address and will at some point, the Facebook version here. But of course, you can join me on YouTube at MarkRogersTV.com. It redirects right to the YouTube page. And for anybody watching on the live chat, I appreciate it. The comments and the questions. I want to let and remind everyone that we've got schedule rankings coming your way. We've got 70 to do. We've posted about 38, something in that range. So schedule rankings. So don't be confused by the ranking numbers. As Clemson alum, one of our faithful viewers, Clemson alum 98 or whatever the year is, commented to me this afternoon that I was ranking Clemson 30th in the country or something. No, that's their schedule ranking. I've not lost my mind. Clemson will be pretty good, maybe a little bit better than number 30 in the nation. So those are schedule rankings. When we get those done, complete that series, then we're going to focus our attention on previews and predictions. And we know that you all want previews and predictions, and especially the predictions, because maybe you want to throw a buck or two on games. I don't know, but people love predictions. And here you go. I got all sorts of notes to get me set for creating those video posts. So we'll get those released very soon. We got team reports coming this week, and here's the roll call. All right. So yesterday we had Steve Dace on from Michigan Podcast, not talking Michigan football. We talked about his projections for the 2018 season, who's going to make the big jumps and who's going to decline. And so please check out that video. And we appreciate over 1,000 views already on that. It's only about a day old. Tonight, of course, talking Utah football. Wednesday night, who do we have here? Savannah Lee Richardson at 7 o'clock Eastern time to talk Georgia. James Coleman at 8 o'clock talking Florida State. And then at 9 p.m., we've got Brandon Holloway. He is the wholesome one talking Miami football. That's on Wednesday night. It's Georgia, it's Florida State, it's Miami. Then on Thursday night, we've got Briance Knowles. That is Briance Knowles talking Florida State football with us at 7 o'clock. And then at 8 o'clock, our man Alonzo 1219 from Miami, talking up the Canes. On Friday, we've got a first appearance from Ken Zugiara. He's a reporter for Georgia Tech, and that will be at 11 o'clock in the morning on a Friday. Then at 1 o'clock Eastern, Stephen M. Smith of Touchdown Alabama. We have missed Stephen greatly. He will be back with us at 1 o'clock on Friday talking Alabama football. And then we run down the Nittany Lions of Penn State at 2 o'clock with Tim Aiden from Black Shoe Diaries. We're already lining up guests for next week to get camp reports. We've lined up Florida and West Virginia, Texas and Oklahoma as well. All right. Again, I've got the live stream here on YouTube. And if you've got anything to discuss or debate concerning college football, we can do that for the next few minutes. Otherwise, I will continue to crank out the schedule rankings and then previews and predictions for you. I want to let you know that if you look at the description section underneath the videos on YouTube, you will see 4 links that are Amazon links. Now, I need your help. I need your support, and this helps, again, the channel continue to thrive and expand. So if you're going to go shopping on Amazon, please use one of those links. You can go do whatever you want, buy whatever you want, do whatever you would typically do on Amazon. Just go through one of those links, and you can find any of those 4 links in the description section underneath any of the videos. Grab the Amazon link, use it. Don't be misdirected by the product. You don't have to buy the product. Just keep going and work through Amazon and do what you typically do on Amazon. But please use one of the 4 links that I provide underneath the videos. That would be amazing if you could do that. I know people love Amazon. I'm not a big Amazon guy. Don't jump on Amazon, but I soon could be a big Amazon guy if you follow me. Again, team reports coming, schedule rankings, previews, and predictions as well. We've got our mailing list started, so we appreciate everybody who has sent me their email list to build a list that we're going to start communicating to all our followers starting the first week of the football season. Now, what that's going to be exactly, I don't know, but it's going to be additional content, perspective, predictions, whatever it is. 1 mailing per week, nothing more than that. You're not going to have any junk in your inbox. I'm not going to send you a bunch of marketing crap, anything like that. It's just simply going to be my take on college football for the week and a little additional interaction that we'll have each and every week. So that's going to start week 1 of the college football season. I expect to be sending those on Mondays. And again, if you'd like to be on that mailing list, I'm giving you my email, so it's a fair trade. So send your contact information. So it's just simply your name and your email address, which I, of course, will have once you send me the email, unless you want to send me another email address, and we'll put you on the mailing list. Send it to MarkRogersTV, MarkRogersTV, MarkRogersTV at Gmail, and we'll get you on the mailing list. All right. Of course, like, comment, and subscribe. That's the YouTube thing. They love that. They love it. The search engine loves it. And that's what we do here. We would like to hear from you. So any of the rankings we do, and people love lists and rankings, you've hit me loud and clear with your desire for more lists and rankings and ratings. So please send me yours. Just drop those off in the comment section. As you guys can see, I'm getting inundated with comments, but that's a great thing. That's a great thing. So we would do about 300 or 400 comments per month this time last year. And last month we did about 7,000 comments. So we're doing many more comments. And again, I remind anyone watching on Facebook that this isn't the traditional feed here. So I'm just cluing you into what we're doing on YouTube. So I apologize if I'm not addressing the Facebook audience or anybody on there. And I appreciate anybody who said hi to me and waved and jumped on even for just a second. All right, everyone. I will check the live stream and the live chat, and then we will probably wrap it up for another night. But again, look at this lineup for the rest of the week. And if you didn't do so already, check out the live stream that we did with Steve Dace, Michigan Podcast on Sunday. I thought it was very intriguing to hear his projections of who's going to take off this year and who's going to drop off. Wednesday night, Savannah Lee Richardson, Georgia football, Bulldog Illustrated, 7 o'clock Eastern time. 8 o'clock, James Coleman from Gridiron Now. That's Florida State football at 8 Eastern time. And then the wholesome one. Why he calls himself that, I really don't know. Maybe I'll ask him. He is the wholesome one, though. Brandon Holloway talking Miami football at 9 o'clock on Wednesday night. Thursday, we've got Beyonce Knowles for the first time from Florida State, talking Knowles at 7 o'clock. Then at 8 o'clock, Zoe, our brother, Alonzo Oliver, and we will be giving away the swag that Zoe has promised to the one viewer, follower, whomever, who brings me the most subscribers for that 1 month that we designated. And we do have a winner, and that will be announced on Thursday night. But I wanted to wait until Zoe was here because he made it all possible. He was the guy who made the first ever giveaway on Mark Rogers TV possible. And it's not just a t-shirt or, $5 or $10 swag. It's a serious piece of merchandise that he's giving away. So all our props and respect go to Zoe for helping us out and supporting the show there. Friday, it all starts at 11 o'clock Eastern time in the morning with Ken Sugiura on Georgia Tech. We've got Alabama Talk at 1 o'clock with Stephen M. Smith of Touchdown Alabama. And at 2 o'clock, we've got Tim Aiden on the line for Penn State Black Shoe Diaries. And then a number of guests lined up for next week. So everybody on the live chat, I appreciate it. Anybody watching on Facebook, again, if you want the more traditional feed, please join us at Mark Rogers TV. Just go to MarkRogersTV.com. That redirects you right to the YouTube channel. And please subscribe, like, and comment. That's the way the game's played. So I'm going to go to the live chat to see if anybody's made any comments. And I really would like to and need to, at some point, start this mailbag, because that'll be a whole lot of fun responding to your comments. And I'm losing my light, even though one of my lights burned out over here. I don't know what happened. And I've got the one light over here. And of course, the sun is not helping me over there. Colton's on the line. 10-point games could be the difference between Utah going 5-7 or 10-2. Are you going to do a big non-power 5 teams like Central Florida? All right, Colton. Boy, it's going to be difficult because think about this. I haven't finished my schedule rankings. And then once I dive into the Power 5, we're talking about 68 teams. So to get those done before opening night on Thursday night, it's going to be rough. So I would love to do a better service to the group of 5. And remember, I did go to American Conference Media Days just 2 weeks ago, and we had a great time there. And I still have interviews to release from that. I only released 8 or 9 videos of coaches and players interviews from American Conference Media Days, and I did 29. So more of those to come. All right. Anything else on here? More about Utah football. So let's do this. I've got about 15 more minutes or so. Let's see if I can answer some of these 6,000 plus comments from last month. Let's see what we've got here. Anything interesting? And I'll check out Facebook while that's loading. Hi, Stacy, Pat, Tammy, thank you so much. And I know this doesn't make a whole lot of sense since you can only see me, but I'm doing my YouTube live stream, and I just fired up Facebook Live as well. Again, I'm going to remind Clemson alum 98, who made a number of comments about my ranking of Clemson football, that he was a bit confused by. It's a schedule ranking. That's why it says college football schedule rankings. That is not my ranking for the football team at Clemson. All right, let's see what else we've got here. Mark, I think you should do an NFL fantasy football league this season. I can't get done what I've got on my plate right now. NCIS Fanatic 21, I appreciate you entrusting me with an NFL fantasy league, but that's for another time. And man, this is getting bad, isn't it? All right. Nicholas, we appreciate you pointing out that the Syracuse Notre Dame game will be at Yankee Stadium. Yes. Thank you. All right. All right. Somebody loves saying the word dumbass. They've stated this 6 times in one comment. Stickman83. Stickman83. I've seen your comments many times. I appreciate you watching. I don't know that I'm following the comment here that says quote, and everyone, I apologize if you're offended by any of the language, but it's not that bad. Quote, no, you're the dumbasses that hired an underachieving coach. I believe we're talking about Michigan. Stop calling others dumbasses when your fandom is literally the definition of insanity in itself. Respect others' opinion in this field, or any other dumbass would love to see this cat in a parking lot. I believe we're talking about, okay, Steve Dace, Michigan podcast yesterday, made a comment in which he stated that there were some clowns of sorts in the media because of the way they treat Jim Harbaugh. And that was the response from Stickman83. So not necessarily anything that I need to respond to, because that was targeted at Steve Days of Michigan Podcast. Let me see if we've got anything about my brilliant work here and some of your comments about what we're doing here. All right, Jay, the U family. Love your show, Mark Rogers. Good info. Looking forward to the season. Okay. Pretty boring, but we appreciate it because I'm sure people would rather hear me getting blasted, which I'm sure we will get to here at some point. Maurice Lott checking out my running back rankings 1 through 10 in the nation. Mentions that I'm curious where you rank Washington's Myles Gaskin or Stephen Carr. Okay, Stephen Carr was a part-time running back last year. He's a great, phenomenal talent, a high recruit. He's had a number of injuries already in just one season in college football at USC. He is not near a top 10 running back. Now, if he finishes the season as arguably one of the 10 best running backs in the nation, that would not surprise me, Maurice. But he is not that right now. All right. Maurice also on Myles Gaskin. I had him very, very close to the top 10. So look at the guys that I have ranked in the top 10 in college football at running back. The list is stacked with talent, explosive talent, great players. It was difficult for me to leave out Myles Gaskin, but I looked at like 35 players, and he was definitely in the 10 to 12 spots, something in that range. If anybody is commenting on the live stream on YouTube, I apologize, but I'm running down comments here, so I only have the one window open. George, I used to think Tennessee fans were the most gullible, but nobody beat South Carolina. Dream on. South Carolina signed the Florida Gator football team. All right. What else do we have? George defending me when I was asked what team I root for, and says it doesn't matter. He's not prejudiced. His assessment of these things. He's still the voice of college football. Let's leave him alone for a little bit. See how that all squares out with a new coach. If Urban Meyer stays, it would just burn everybody out. We were here to talk college football, not social graces. Purple and gold. Here is Joe Burrow throwing the ball on the first day of fall camp. That's at LSU, the new quarterback, most likely Joe Burrow. Just wondering if anyone thinks he is legit. Give a plus up if he looks like the real deal, or a plus down if he looks like a pretender. So, hey, anybody who loves college football, who's into scouting players, purple and gold in the video that we have on Miami taking on LSU, has posted a comment and a video of Joe Burrow throwing at practice, and he's asking for responses on whether he's legit. Now, if you're able to tell if Joe Burrow's legit from throwing the football around on a practice field, you are a better man or woman than me. What else do we have here? All right, here we go. Had quite the back and forth with just another critic with a K, who writes, funny, you don't give enough credit to teams like Iowa just a few years ago, Northwestern, Purdue, all away games. So basically, I ranked Wisconsin to have the worst schedule, the easiest schedule in the Big Ten, number 62 in the nation. And just another critic is letting me know that they still play some good teams like Northwestern and Iowa and Purdue in the Big Ten Western Division. Okay, I'm not discounting that. Those three teams are good teams. They're not great teams. They're not elite teams. They're decent. And that Wisconsin, they do have Michigan and Penn State on the schedule. Okay, Wisconsin did not schedule anyone non-conference. Their non-conference schedule is an embarrassment. And don't say that we didn't know how good or bad BYU would be when you schedule a BYU, when you schedule a mid-tier team in the Power Five. this is what you're going to get. You're going to get a wild card of a team showing up on that particular year when you schedule these games 5 years in advance. When they scheduled Alabama and LSU 3 straight years, Wisconsin knew what kind of team was going to show up on the field. So, yes, Wisconsin is a weak schedule. Don't try to defend it. They can't control the Big Ten schedule. I get that. They cannot control it. It's handed to them. And this year, it's pretty tough with Michigan and Penn State in the other division. And they play in the weaker of the 2 divisions by far. And they're the best team in that division. So besides them, there's not a whole lot there. Some decent teams. So I just challenged Just Another Critic to basically say, I get all your points that Wisconsin plays a decent schedule and they play some good teams. But my 2 arguments are, number one, they did not schedule tough in the non-conference, and BYU does not fit that bill. And number 2, give me another schedule in the Big Ten that's worse than Wisconsin's, and I will point out step by step of why any of the other teams in the Big Ten play a more difficult schedule than Wisconsin. It's going to be easy to do. So Just Another Critic, please do that. And certainly he was nice enough to let me know where he found me on YouTube. It was a recommended video and he jumped on board, and I love the comments. So I don't mind the debate. So just be logical and just be respectful, but I don't mind the debate. I love the debate. That's why we're here. So Just Another Critic, hopefully you're watching tonight. I'm giving you a lot of time because you commented 4 or 5 times, and I appreciate the comments. Again, we had almost 7,000 comments last month. So it was a big month for us. And as we get toward football season, it's going to be even bigger. And anybody watching on Facebook, I appreciate it as well. I know this is not tailored toward the Facebook audience. As I'm running through, what I'm doing right now is kind of doing a live mailbag. I'm running through the comments from I'm only about 2 days deep here. I'll never be able to look at the past month because we're going to do this about 10 more minutes. As you can imagine, we've got a ton of comments on Urban Meyer, and I'm not going to address that. We've done 3 live streams, probably a total of 4 hours of content on Urban Meyer alone. And so please check out those videos because I gave my opinion on the situation. And bottom line right now, I could talk about it for the next 5 hours, but I will make a bottom line statement basically that if Urban Meyer told the truth, despite all of his bumbling and fumbling at Big Ten Media Days, if he turned this information over to the police and investigators through the administration and the AD, so if he told the truth about that, and he also questioned the coach, Zach Smith, as he states he did, and told him, hey, if any of this is true, you're gone, you're fired. But the police reports came back after investigation to say, we've got nothing here. Then I don't really know what he should have done in that case. So if he's telling the truth at this point, based on what we know, if Urban Meyer's telling the truth, I think he should retain his job. If he's not telling the truth, he should lose his job. And I'm not talking about telling the truth on Big Ten Media Days to the media, because as was pointed out by Reese Davis the other day, and I was thinking exactly the same thing when it was served up to him, that if college football coaches are held to the standard of telling the truth to the media, they'd all be fired. We would not have any college football coaches. They all lie to the media at some point. All right, there's just so much Ohio State here. I don't know that I can weed through all of this to get to some other stuff because I just don't want to get into the weeds concerning Ohio State and Urban Meyer. Valdis Mosley, thank you for the suggestion. Who wants me to extend my tagline to, he says, try this, Mark. Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football. We provide the best pregame and postgame analysis you'll find anywhere. Valdis, I appreciate the feedback and I appreciate the suggestion. I'll leave it right there. What do we have? What do we have? What do we have? I'm a Michigan fan. I don't really care for Urban Meyer, but I have to say this is BS. He should not have to be policing relationships. I can't stand this social media SHIT. Everybody's in everybody else's business. All these men are being held responsible without any proof or knowledge of the story. Now men are just being destroyed off of collateral damage. Urban Meyer has taken care of the problem. He fired the person. I think it's a little bit more involved than that, Antoine Johnson, but I appreciate the comment. And I don't know that I'm going to be able to get through all of this. I'd forgotten about how many comments we got about Urban Meyer, and justifiably so. It's the most important thing going on right now in college football. But considering we've done 4 hours on Urban Meyer, I didn't want to talk about it anymore right now. That doesn't mean we talk college football all the time, so you guys can ask me anything. We will report further on the Urban Meyer situation as it develops. But I mean, right this second, I'm not talking about Urban Meyer. I'm looking for other comments because you guys make 7,000 comments over the course of a month. I want to respond. My man Valdez comes back with Mark Rogers, your work ethic is remarkable. By the way, I think Miami has a good defensively line also, but this is a new front for Miami, so we shall see. All right. Buckeye State Sports making some nice comments here. We got, of course, Tim Lee, 356. Oh, man, it's all Ohio State Urban Meyer. And again, we will talk Urban Meyer more, but we've got 4 hours out there on video. So if you want to hear us discussing Urban Meyer and breaking down the whole situation, myself, Claire Crawford, Steve Hellwagon, I talked about it for like 75 minutes without shutting up. So I've spoken my piece as of right now. But certainly if you guys have more to say about it, but I'm looking for the comments concerning other college football here. George Lara. I don't know that we've heard from George, so welcome to Mark Rogers TV. I appreciate the comment here. George is asking me, are you competing with Feinbaum? Yes, I'm competing with Feinbaum. That was my impersonation. Hey, Mark, can I get your email? Chris Harris. Mark Rogers TV. Let me block the sun. Mark Rogers TV at Gmail. So much about Urban Meyer, of course. And so what I would like to do in the future is do a mailbag and respond to all the comments. And I'm not doing a very good job of it right now because I'm trying to weed through all the Urban Meyer comments to find anything else that you guys have to say. So in the future, what I'll do is I'll have to review everything. Maybe this is a good task for my staff. Weed through everything, find the best comments. I really want to respond to, because it's going to be funny to respond to the people that blast me, the people that make fun of me. That's going to be the most fun part of this process. Is and then of course reading George's comments, because George is just George, where's your YouTube channel? I would not be able to compete with it. It's phenomenal. LSU, and this is all George as well. George says, Mark, I'm worried about Miami and LSU. I'm afraid Miami's going to get their spirit broken. On a scale of 1 to 10, what do you think is the chance LSU breaks Miami in half? I think it's like a 7. That's typical George right there. It's funny stuff. And more on Urban Meyer. So again, this wasn't the best approach I took to answering viewer mail, because it's Urban Meyer. All right, folks. I will attempt to make that part of the channel in the future. I've just got to find time to do it. And with everything else going on in football season starting, it may not be soon, but I would like to address the mail on a regular basis. most likely once a week. And of course, as I just mentioned a few minutes ago, if you want to join our mailing list, MarkRogersTV at Gmail, MarkRogersTV at Gmail. And please send me your contact information. That's just your name and your email address, and we'll put you on the mailing list that starts week 1 of the college football season. So back to the live chat, and then we will wrap up for a Monday night. But first, again, remind everyone here, last night, Steve Deace, Michigan podcast, projections for 2018. It was good stuff. If you're a nerd like me, and all of you are, admit it. It's okay. You love college football and you love us talking about this kind of stuff. So check out the win projections, courtesy Steve Deace. Wednesday night, 7 o'clock, Savannah Lee Richardson, Georgia. 8 o'clock Eastern time, James Coleman, Florida State. 9 o'clock, Brandon Holloway, the Wholesome One on the U. Thursday night, Briance Knowles, first appearance on Mark Rogers TV, Florida State. Briance Knowles, 7 o'clock. 8 o'clock, Alonzo Oliver. He is Zoe to me. He's Alonzo1219 to you, and maybe Zoe as well. Talking Miami, and of course, giving away the swag prize giveaway, the first ever at Mark Rogers TV, the giveaway on Thursday night at 8 o'clock. Friday, we start at 11 in the morning with Ken Sugiara, Georgia Tech. Stephen Smith of Touchdown Alabama Talking Tide at 1 o'clock, and Tim Aiden, Penn State Black Shoe Diaries at 2. Schedule rankings, previews, and predictions are coming right here at Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football. Please like, comment, subscribe. And one more look at the live chat before I call it a night. And I really would love to be able to call it a night, but there is work to be done elsewhere. All right, Too Bad 28. Look at all these people jumping on late here. We were talking Utah football at 6 o'clock Eastern time. You guys probably at what? Eating dinner or something. Panther Pro 22. Mark, what do you think about Alabama's wide receivers this year? Judy, Ruggs, Smith, Devonta Smith, of course, who caught the game winner in the national championship game. Personally, I think we have tremendous upside and depth, even though they don't have much experience. So you stated the two obvious things there, Panther Pro. You don't have much experience, but what positional unit at Alabama doesn't have great upside? Stephen Smith, 1 o'clock Eastern time, Friday, talking Alabama football. But I think that states it right there. You miss Calvin Ridley, Robert Foster, and the rest of those wide receivers. So the experience is going to be lacking, but I'm not concerned about Alabama's wide receivers, and we know that they have tremendous 5-star, 4-star talent. Too Bad 28, what are your thoughts on ESPN's top 50 players for 2018? So Too Bad 28, we will add that to the list of future topics. Top 50 ESPN. I'm sure I will love ESPN's top 50 list. I'm sure I might be able to improve it that much. Ryan Stone. Do me a favor, Ryan. Let me know how you found me, when you found me, because this is the first time I've seen you comment. Ryan Stone, what do you have to say here? We must expand the playoffs. I don't want to be dead before we go to the 16-team playoff. 16? Let's get it to 8. 16 would be phenomenal. 8, let's get to 8. We've got to include all the conferences. Ryan, if you're just starting to watch here recently, please check out the channel. Do a search within the channel about college football playoff system, or I would love to give you a best way to find it. But I have broken down how the college football playoff should be approached, that there should be 8 teams, and there are 2 good ways to do it, 2 fair and just ways to do it for everyone involved. And I'm not going to go into the details, but the 2 basic models are, number 1, you either include everybody in the FBS, therefore you give a guaranteed slot to the group of 5 within the 8 teams. And of course, all the conference champions are included. Or you say, group of 5, you're not good enough. See ya. Go do whatever you want. Play a championship. Do whatever you want. We are not going to guarantee you a spot, but it is beyond criminal in an athletic standpoint. Please don't write me about that comment. Athletically, it's criminal competitively that these guys are playing football and on scholarship and working their tails off and studying film and lifting weights and running all off season. They are devoting time every day of the year to football, and they have no chance to win a national championship. I believe, as I have stated, that the College Football Playoff Committee, one of their tasks should be each and every August is to take a tour, go on a big tour of all the group of 5 schools and visit practice and make a declaration to the football team at Colorado State, Kent State, Northern Illinois, all the group of 5 schools, visit the camp, look the players straight in the eye and say, thanks for your hard work, your efforts, and your diligence, but you have absolutely no chance in hell of making the college football playoff. That's what they should have to do. So, Ryan, I'm right there with you. Expand the playoffs. Anybody else here? Prince jumping in, 6'1". So, Prince, you're happy with 6'1", I take it. To put that on your handle, you got to be happy that you stand 6'1". Hey, Mark, you should consider doing reaction videos to players' highlights. Yeah. So the first thing we need to do there is have the software to do it, the production bells and whistles to do it, which I would love to have and will be pursuing at some point to do that. Just texting me. Okay. So what I would be able to do, so you guys can play along, is show the highlight of the play or the player, the team, or the drive. Wouldn't that be something else? We could put up a drive, a final drive. So Alabama beat Georgia to win the national championship. We put up the final Alabama drive and we talk about what Georgia did wrong, what Alabama did right, who did this, who did that, and break it down, discuss it. Phenomenal. Would love to do that. It's a little bit beyond us right now, but hang with us. Colton made a lot of suggestions. Colton was the only guy on here for a little while. Shannon, I appreciate the comment that you love the show. Shannon, I ask you and everybody else that I see making a comment for the first time, just let me know how you found me, when you found me. And I'm just interested in that because some people comment and say, you know, I've been watching for 3 years. I just never commented, or you missed my comments. And other people have said, just found you today and decided to comment. So like, comment, subscribe. I appreciate it. The support is amazing. 7,000 comments last month. So for everybody on Facebook that I didn't wave to or say hi, I apologize. And again, the best way to watch this is to go to YouTube anytime we strike up the live stream and go to YouTube, or go to simply MarkRogersTV.com. So thank you so much. And I will wave at everyone on Facebook. And for those of you that are watching on YouTube, as always, we will see you soon. And again, we've got a huge Wednesday night lined up and schedule rankings, more of them coming your way. Previews and predictions. You've seen all the other predictions online. My predictions are coming right here at Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football. You guys have a great Monday night.